Mr. Igo's got the perfect chair there. In my office, Sean, I have one of those, and I lean back and I can't be seen on the screen anymore. The judge says, "Where'd you go, Mr. D?"
Oh yeah, well, my technical crew, we set this whole thing up. We got to get everything set up right.
Was Bambi the technical crew?
Yeah.
Well, couldn't ask for better. Couldn't ask for better.
Okay, we are live on YouTube, so I'll just give my little preamble. The June 11th, 2020 meeting of the Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals is about to convene as a precautionary measure to reduce the spread of the coronavirus. All town buildings are closed to the public, and this meeting will be held by remote participation. My name is Kathy Williams, and I'm the Yarmouth Town Planner and will be serving as moderator for this virtual meeting. I will now turn it over to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you. My name is Stephen DeYoung. I'm the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I will begin by calling a roll call to see if we have a quorum here. Mr. Igo, are you present?
Present.
Ms. Britta, are you present?
Present.
And Mr. Nicanello, are you present?
I'm present, sir.
All right, we're waiting for one more person. That would be Dick Martin. We're not going to hold the meeting up for that purpose, but he may be joining us before we get to the actual substantive provisions of this or concerns of this meeting. If I could turn it back to you. Well, I'm sorry, with a quorum present, I will now, we have very specific scripts for anybody sitting at home. I will now call the meeting to order. I will ask the moderator to explain how the remote participation will work before proceeding with the merits of the petition.
Thank you. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 23rd order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted via remote participation. Although no in-person attendance will be permitted, every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access and participate in the proceedings. Persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching via this virtual meeting or the live feed on the Town of Yarmouth YouTube channel. You may also listen to the meeting by dialing into the number provided on the notice of meeting. We are also post a recording of this meeting on the Town of Yarmouth website as soon as we are able. Please be patient as we work to overcome any technical challenges we may have. For all meetings, to reduce confusion during the meeting, all audience participants will enter the meeting muted. Participants will be unmuted when called upon to speak by the chairman. All votes must be by roll call votes. And if you are not speaking, please mute yourself to avoid unnecessary background noise and do not use speakerphone or Bluetooth devices when speaking. For applicants and presenters, applicants can use the raise hand button or press *9 on their phone to identify themselves to the chair. The moderator will unmute the applicant when they are called upon to speak during their portion of the agenda. If pre-approved, all presenters and speakers need to identify themselves by first and last name and affiliation when speaking. For public hearings, during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment, the chair will ask who in the audience has any public comments or questions. Members of the public may speak by selecting the raise hand button and waiting for the chair to call on them to speak. If you are dialed in to the phone number provided, you can press *9 on the phone to indicate you would like to comment. As an alternative to making comments via the online audio or phone, you may also submit comments to the moderator via the virtual meeting chat function. To do this, click on that chat icon and type your message. When prompted, the moderator will read the comments and questions into the record. Members of the public recognized by the chair are asked to identify themselves by first and last name and affiliation for the public record and then provide their comment. Prior to concluding opportunities for public comment, the chair will ask one last time if anyone wishes to speak or give additional comment. I will now hand the meeting back to the board, but I do see an additional attendee, and let me see if it's Dick Martin. It is Dick. Let me promote him to a panel.
Hi, all.
Hello, Dick.
Hi there. Sorry about that. My apologies.
Start video.
All right, there you are.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. And we called the roll call earlier, and Dick is one of, for anybody that might be home, interested in this petition. Mr. Martin is one of our regular members, and it's a pleasure to see you, despite it being only virtual. So with that, we are tonight considering the petition 4848, that of Dennis and Donna Coffey of 29 Crest Circle, West Yarmouth, Massachusetts. That property is in a zoning district, R25. Our applicant seeks a variance from zoning bylaw 203.5 to encroach into required side setback. Would the petitioner or the petitioner's representative please identify yourself for us?
Yes, this is Dennis Coffey, the homeowner at 29 Crest Circle, West Yarmouth.
All right, Dennis, I can't see you yet. And I can tell that you're must be a little bit away from your microphone. So if you could bring it a little bit closer, that would be helpful, okay?
Is this better, sir?
That sounds good to me now. Everybody okay with that? All right, just if you keep your voice up, we want to hear everything you're going to tell us. And so you presented a petition for variance relief. Would you tell us about what is the need for relief and what's going on here?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your service to the community. I have some familiarity with public service such as you do and perform, and we appreciate it. We had a small cottage in the back section of our property that was in disrepair. I hired a contractor and we went through a design process and permitting process. And then during the construction, the builder suggested a minor alteration that when we looked at it, we figured it was still compliant with the basic plan and would be compliant with the zoning. However, upon completion and when we had the surveyor come back to do the final as-built as requested by the building inspector, we found we were 5 inches closer to the side yard, the north side yard, than we had expected to be. It was an addition to, originally it was going to be a small open deck, and the builder suggested we enclose that open deck and turn the door back towards the street as opposed to toward the side yard. And so that minor change resulted in this 5-inch discrepancy on the side yard. So
And you need to bring it from that side because it plugs into on this side of the computer. That's it.
So as we discovered the problem, then the building inspector, told us we would have to go through this process,
Okay.
and we filed the application. And so we respectfully request that the variance be granted. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. So I was going to start with Mr. Martin, but he may be otherwise engaged. I don't see any faces on the screen, Ms. Moderator, but I guess that's okay. Oh, there we go. Now we're coming back. So we'll wait for Tom to pop up, and maybe we'll even get to see Mr. Coffey, who sounds like a very well thought man. Mr. Nicanello, are you with us?
I believe so, sir.
Okay, so we're going to start with, I'm going to start on the screen as I see it. Mr. Martin, do you have any questions about petitioner?
Not really. We're talking about 5 inches, and it seems to be it's unfortunate it happened and somebody messed up, but and after the fact, there's certainly a hardship going on relevant to what's there, and it doesn't seem like there's any undue nuisance or any issues with neighbors, so I don't have any questions.
All right, Ms. Britta?
No, I have no question, just a comment. I actually walked over and looked at the site. You'd be hard pressed to find the 5 inches. I mean, it's such a sort of a lush, started to get vegetated site. So it would really be very difficult to have anyone complain about it. And I believe we got a letter from the abutter saying that they had no issues with the with the applicant's request. So I'm satisfied. I agree with Dick, though. I hate to see these things happen, especially in a house that appears to have spent so much money on architectural, services, to miss this by 5 inches, but it's missed by 5 inches and we have to deal with it. So I have no problems, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Nicanello, your thoughts or questions of the petitioner? Tom?
Is that mute?
Tom, are you there?
Him.
All right, well, we'll go to Mr. Igo. Mr. Igo can take Tom's place in the queue. What do you have to say, Mr. Igo? What questions you might have of the petitioner?
Well, I have no questions. I agree with what the other board members have already conveyed. I think that the petitioner does qualify for the variance relief. It's obvious that if he would have had to move it, that it would represent hardship, financial hardship for him to correct it. Looking at the lot, it appears that there's a question of the shape of the lot. So the hardship could be owing to the shape of the lot. And I think if we did grant this type of relief, I don't think that we'd be degrading from the intended purpose of the bylaw. So I think when you look at a situation like this, these are the reasons why you look to grant variance relief, especially for these small things. This is where you can help somebody out, our neighbors and our townspeople. And I think that is what the town had in mind when they adopted that bylaw, the variance criteria, as it was under state statute as well. So I do think he qualifies for it. He meets the criteria. So I plan on supporting it, and I would urge the board to support it as well. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Ms. Williams, I note that Mr. Nicanello is no longer on our screen. Have we lost his participation?
It does look like we've lost him.
Well, Mr. Coffey, are you still prepared to go forward with 4 members voting on this?
Yes, sir.
All right, because we like to give people that choice, but it seems like you're getting a very positive vibe here. So now would probably be the time to do it. Mr. Coffey, we can't see you either, but I'm going to say I looked at this, and this is the one time that I think I can be critical of not seeing that double notation of it being a request for a special permit or a request for a variance. And then I looked good and hard at the site plan and said, well, I guess I could see where it might be owing to the topography, as Mr. Igo has so eloquently stated. Personally, I'm going to support this plan unless I hear something different from the public when we invite them in a minute. I do want to point out that Ms. Britter is absolutely right. That of a Mary Lou Gibbons and Philip Gibbons of 25 Crest Circle indicate that they are not opposed. And are they your direct abutter, Mr.
Yes,
Coffey?
sir, they are the abutter. Yes, sir, they are the abutter directly to the north of my property line, yes.
Okay, they're the most affected abutter, is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I think it's awfully nice when neighbors can stand by each other and be supportive like they are. I hope you'll be a good neighbor back to them. So at this point, unfortunately, Mr. Nicanello's lost still. So we're going to open it up to the public and ask Ms. Williams if there is any member of the public in her waiting room.
There's one person in the waiting room with the designation of CJM4T, but they don't have their hand raised. And I do not have anybody who has provided anything through the chat function. So if
All
this
right.
person wants to chat, they'd need to raise their hand.
All right, so I'm going to, here we go. Mr. Nicanello almost came back. Here you go. Hello, Tom, again. Technology is good, but it ain't great. Hi, Tom.
Hey, it's tough being on the commercial strip.
Yeah, well, listen here. Tom, you haven't had a chance to ask Mr. Coffey any questions, and we want to give you that opportunity so that you can vote on this petition, okay? Do you have any questions, Mr. Coffey?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. No, I do not have any questions. I just hope the 5 inches was worth the whole ordeal, and thank you very much.
All right, so does anybody in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please raise your hand so that the moderator may see you.
Mr. Chairman, there is someone with their hand raised, but they had it raised before you made that statement, but they're the only person in the audience, so I can unmute them if that's okay.
That'd be fine.
They're going to have to unmute. There you go.
And would you
Hello.
identify yourself for us, please?
If I'm on, it's Joe Callahan.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, hi, how are you? I'm the abutter directly across the creek that looks at that property. I came in late. Actually, I went to the town hall, so I was kind of curious because the notice said it was an offset to the back of the property. As far as what I just got just a second ago, I think you're talking about it's 5 inches additional towards the creek.
That's correct. No, towards the side
Oh.
where the Gibbons live.
Okay.
Towards the sideline, not towards the rear line.
I would not have any problem whatsoever with it. The gentleman's done a pretty fine job with the property, the grass and the buildings. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And Mr. Coffey, another good neighbor that you might want to remember. So we also invite anybody in our audience who may care to speak in opposition to this petition to let our town planner know, I'm sorry, our moderator this evening know, so that you can be identified and heard. Is there anybody there, Kathy, other than Mr. Callahan?
No, there is not.
All right. So at this point, we close it to the public's inquiries or information and bring it to the board for discussion and deliberation. So we started on one end, we're going to go to the other end now. Mr. Nicanello, what are your thoughts on this petition?
Mr. Chairman, I think the applicant has done a great job, and I move it right along. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And Mr. Igo, what are your thoughts on this petition?
As I said before, I am in support of the petition. I do think the petitioner does meet the criteria for a variance.
Very good. Ms. Breda? Oh, you're muted.
Unmute.
Unmute.
I'm in support of the petition.
Thank you very much. We didn't want to lose those words. Mr. Martin?
Yes, I'm also in support of the petition and feel it meets the criteria for the variance.
Yeah, I again would had some skepticism until I really looked at this plot plan, and it's such a de minimis, intrusion into the sideline with, as Mr. Coffey, I guess, indicate. Oh, I'm sorry, no, Ms. Britta indicated with strong vegetation over there that doesn't impact this 5 inches at all. So I think Mr. Igo has properly stated the criteria that are necessary for us to consider this. We are required, after a motion and a second has been done, to do it by roll call. Is anybody prepared to make a motion concerning petition 4848 at this time?
I move to approve the motion as requested. Approve the appeal, I should say.
And that would be without condition, right?
Without conditions.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Who said that?
Susan Britta.
Oh, I'm sorry, Susan. I wasn't looking at the screen. I apologize. So you've seconded. All right. Does the board care to have any discussion on this motion made by Mr. Martin, seconded by Ms. Britta, before proceeding to a vote? Seeing none, we'll start with, again, on my screen, the way I'm seeing you all appointed. Mr. Nicanello, what's your vote? We must actually do a roll call vote tonight.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
And Mr. Martin? Aye.
Yep, aye.
Okay, Ms. Britta?
Aye.
Mr. Igo?
Aye.
And my own vote would be an aye. That carries unanimously, Mr. Coffey. What now happens is that a decision will be drafted. That decision will be filed with the town clerk's office. 20 days must elapse before that, that petition, decision rather, is deemed fully approved and ready for recordation down at the Barnstable Registry of Deeds. Ms. Clark, with whom I know you've communicated, will certainly help to identify that process for you. And as we know, she's probably the smartest one in our whole group. So you'll be in good. All right. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add, whether on or off the agenda? I see nothing else on the agenda. Would someone care to move to adjourn this meeting, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So Mr.
Second.
Igo moved to adjourn and Mr. Martin has seconded enthusiastically, I see. We're going to do a roll
I
call.
got Seafood Sam's waiting for me.
Okay. Be careful. Ms. Britta, motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Nicanello,
Aye.
Mr. Igo,
Aye.
and my own vote is an aye, and so that carries unanimously. And at this point, I don't think I have anything else I need to say, do I? Perhaps our moderator will jump in if I do.
Nope, you're good.
Like the
Okay,
cat.
well then, thank you very much, everybody, and the best of health, okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Stay well.
Good evening.
All right. Bye.
Enjoy the Yarmouth squares, like Hollywood squares.
Yeah.